Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I haven't been super active on YouTube yet, so if you don't know me, my name is Riand, and I am an intuitive guide and astrologer. I also do human design charts, and I'm a translator for other beings and just a vessel for messages and guidance to come through for other people. Um, yeah, so I just shine a flashlight on things that people desire to see to live a more fulfilling life. Um, but my intention with this video is to do a little bit of a Q&A because I get a lot of really interesting questions um, about how I've come about to be doing what I'm doing and how it's impacted me over the course of my life. And so I have a little list here of some of the best questions. I'm going to do my best to answer some of them. I'm going to try not to make this video too long, but I'm just going to roll with it and see what feels good. Um, and of course, during the video, if you have any questions, feel free to type them and I'll try to answer those too. So thank you for watching. The first question I got was about what my earliest experiences are with other beings. So this is actually a really potent experience for me that I didn't understand until I was older. But when I was a little kid, probably about my son's age, I was about 3, I'd say, maybe even younger. But I remember I was having a hard time sleeping, and it was for me because these presences would come to me at night when I would get like quiet and receptive and ready for sleep, right? And I think a lot of people kind of experience this, and maybe they just don't realize it consciously, but it was a real problem for me, and it prevented me from sleeping. And sometimes it would feel like things touching me or like kind of touching my hair, or like you would just feel someone or something sitting on the end of your bed. Um, Now, with my adult awareness, I have a little more discernment about understanding which things are which, like how they feel different. Um, but as a kid, it just kind of creeped me out and was a little traumatic. And I remember because I just had no context for what that was. My parents didn't really understand it. Um, and I think they tried, my mom in particular tried to be supportive and let me do what I needed to do to feel good and rest. But it was just kind of a strange thing. And they didn't understand it either. So I would find myself as a very small child laying awake in bed at night, unable to sleep because there was a lot of activity around me and a lot of things trying to get my attention and not being able to process that or understand how to navigate that experience. So that was my first, those are my first experiences. Um, and as a result of that, I actually kind of ended up learning how to almost self medicate myself. From like, I would have to make my frequency a little bit more heavy so that I couldn't perceive these things, so that I could go to sleep. Now, as an adult, I understand how to set healthy boundaries with these other energies in a way that I don't have to make myself heavier in order to stop myself from perceiving them. But for many, many years, for most of my life, probably, including my childhood, what I would do is there are many different ways you can accomplish this. As a kid, I would watch reruns of Friends on TV before I go to sleep. Um, Not that there's anything wrong with Friends, but you know what I mean. I would watch something that was firmly rooted and plugged into the 3D matrix, and that perpetuated those beliefs and stuff like that. And in watching that, it kind of took my frequency in a different direction, and it distracted me enough that I could get myself tired enough to fall asleep. Um, Sometimes I would also read, and not that the things I was reading were heavy, but it would just once again distract my focus enough that I could get super duper tired, and turn off my receptive mode, um, and so that I could get to sleep. As an adult, this kind of ended up manifesting as I would self medicate in other ways or alter my frequency in other ways. Um, like, um, like sometimes. Hot didn't really do it, but I went through a phase where I would drink before bed, like, even if it was just a beer or something like that, it was enough to kind of numb me from it a little bit. Um, and I actually did go through a pretty, um, what I would consider to be a pretty unhealthy drinking phase, but I'm also a really sensitive person, so what feels like a lot to me probably isn't a lot for another person. But I would drink, pretty much every night or every other night just because I felt like I needed that um, to cement me into a space where I could go to sleep and without all the distractions and the things trying to, it felt like things were trying to penetrate my mind. Like, not necessarily in a bad way, although sometimes it did feel pretty invasive. I'll get into that in a different part. But um, yeah, and then at one point, I feel like this is worth mentioning too, because I think it's something that not a lot of people have words for, but a lot of people do. At one point, I actually self medicated with people. So I would end up dating a person who had like a heavier frequency than me. And when I would sleep next to them, because when I'm next to someone, I kind of just match their frequency, as a lot of sensitive people do. Um, so when I would sleep next to these people, I would just kind of, it would be like my safety blanket. Like I could just match their frequency, and then it would take me away from, it would kind of blunt my perception a little bit there. Um, yeah, so that was kind of like how it progressed and such throughout my life. Now, of course, I understand. There were actually some specific events, which I think I'm going to go through in a different video just because it's a lot to unpack. But basically, I went through some things that helped me understand my own power and how boundaries really work in the context of this phenomenon, or phenomenon, whatever that word is. Sorry, YouTube. Um, not super articulate right now. By the way, I just woke up, so I'm kind of like haggard and drinking coffee and whatever. But yeah, so thanks for bearing with me there. I just felt good. I felt like jumping in, so I just did. Um, but yeah, so like there were certain incidents that taught me how to navigate those experiences in a more intentional way. And now I know that I am always safe and that it's something I can turn on and off. I can invite in those beings that I would like to speak to, who have good intentions and are aligned with what I would like to experience and information that I would like to tap into. On the other end of that, I also can share information with them, which is kind of part of my purpose here, being in this avatar in this incarnation. And once again, that's a whole other topic, whole other video. Um, Yeah, and then there are certain beings that used to kind of traumatize me that I'm just no longer a vibrational match to. And if I ever do feel inklings of them, I know exactly how to snuff out that connection and get them to fuck off, basically, in a nutshell, because I'm not available for that. Um, so that's one thing in talking about this stuff that I really hope to share with people is to help people who are experiencing this kind of stuff understand that even though it's easy to feel powerless and overwhelmed sometimes, by everything that's going on, because there's so much out there and it's just kind of creepy when you don't understand what's happening, these things coming in and maybe making you not feel very good and making you feel very vulnerable, that you are actually stronger than they are and you always have control over the situation. And I know that it doesn't feel that way sometimes, but I promise you it's true. You just have to learn how. So I definitely went through a big process of learning how to do that. People also wanted to know about ways that I contact other beings, like when I do readings and just in general throughout my day. I would say that, kind of like what I was talking about, a lot of times they visit me before I sleep. Um, One thing too is that the I identify them as being the Arcturian consciousness, and that's what I feel them to be. I'm open to abandoning labels and stuff like that too, and who knows, but the Arcturians, um, for as long as I can remember, have always kind of had just an open connection with me, and I can kind of tap into them whenever I want, and they also come and um, I don't know, I feel like visiting me isn't the right word because they're always everywhere. They just kind of like exist on a different layer. Oh, hi, Atlas. How are you doing? Do you want to say hello really quick? I'm doing some
Hello.
work, but you can say hi.
What's this girl's name?
Oh, there's this one. This one isn't for a specific person. Like when I do a reading, he's not because I do recordings for readings a lot. But yeah, so this person doesn't have a name, but yeah. I'm gonna keep talking now because I have some words to share. Would you like to close the door? Oh, I love you. Thank you. Thank you, baby.
I'm gonna close it so baby doesn't come on in and take any of his stuff.
Okay, thank you. That would be perfect.
Your cards.
Okay. Will you close the door, please? I'll be out really soon, okay? Love you. Mom life. um, where was I? I was talking about sleeping. Oh, okay. So the Arcturians, for instance, these are so I consistently experience contact with the Arcturians. And what's unique about them, about my interactions with them as well, is that they will frequently interact with my consciousness when I am sleeping or just before I'm sleeping sometimes, but more so, I think they are actually, there's more activity while I'm sleeping, and they'll come in and they will um, kind of heal my light body while I'm asleep. They'll also give me information that I need for my, it sounds so cheesy to say like this, but that I need for my missions, for what I'm here to do. And they will also, sometimes they'll kind of rearrange my timeline a little bit. Like if we're about to go through a portal in time or just in the general continuum, they will, like we'll kind of like touch base together and debrief a little bit and then make sure that certain things and certain intentions are in alignment um, with just like the highest frequency timeline that I can be on, where I can impact the most people in the best way, and where I can also explore the healing of this individual avatar. Um, and some of this stuff I've never articulated before, and they're actually like, it's coming to me now, and they're kind of sharing with me how to explain it. So this is a really cool experience too. Um, um, but yeah, so the Arcturians are consistently there. Other beings, honestly, you guys, I just ask them. And it just kind of takes practice, but mostly it takes confidence in knowing that you can do it. And it takes being in a state where you're observing without analyzing and not having like an expectation. So it's like you kind of like, um, I compare it to sitting in, like, if you sit in the forest and you just sit and observe what's going on, and you'll notice that everything's moving, that, oh, the stream bed is flowing more at this time of day than it did at a different time of day. Oh, that lichen on that tree looks really soft. Um, oh, there are red berries over there. Those berries look different than those berries. I've never seen that herb before. Things like that. You're just observing, oh, the soil is really fine in this area of the woods. Things like that. Oh, I feel hugged by this tree. It's a really big tree. It feels really good. And different things like that. Um, but even that, assigning positive, negative value, like good or bad, to something is almost kind of stepping into judgment and analyzing. So even that, isn't an ideal example, but I think you get what I'm saying. You just want to observe without analyzing. So, and honestly, in recent history, I've actually begun, I didn't used to do this because it didn't occur to me, but I've actually started speaking my words that when I speak to them, I just speak it out loud. And it's cool because it's like the louder, literally, when I say it out loud, their answers are louder. So there's even less like wondering if it, you know what I mean? Like I don't have to listen as closely. I don't have to still everything quite as much. The response is actually quite loud and quite clear. So it makes sense. It's like they're mirroring me. So the louder I and more clearly I speak to them, the louder and more clearly they speak to me. And that goes with several different entities. I don't always label things the way that others do. I know the Arcturians by name just because I've been with them for so long, or they've been with me for so long. Um, but most of the beings, I don't really necessarily have a need to label them. I just know what they feel like. I know what their frequency feels like. And this goes for um, good and bad ones. I don't really, once again, I don't like to label them as being good or bad because everything just is and everything serves a purpose. And I truly believe that. However, there are certain beings that just aren't really in alignment with me, and they kind of, in a nutshell, they try to fuck with my shit and make me feel things I don't want to feel, and I'm not available for that. So I have very solid boundaries with those entities. I can still observe them, I'll witness them from time to time, but generally, I'm not even a vibrational match to observing them. And when I do, it's almost just kind of like an interesting thing for me to learn and to see what's going on, and it just provides extra insight into things in my own energy field that I have opportunities to clean up or just opportunities for growth. But my discernment is really good now that I can always tell the difference immediately because they feel very different. So that's another tool for your toolbox if you're a sensitive person who experiences these things. Instead of trying to jump in with your analytical mind and label what things are or are not, instead just ask yourself how they feel and what else in your life feels like that. When was the last time you felt that way? Um, and for me, they start to take on a sort of texture, like a texture quality. It's almost like a color and a feel and a density. Like you'll see what they feel like, and it's not as hard as you think. You're gonna be really good at it. um, so those are the most common ways. So are there any other things that I'm just checking my notes to see if there's something else that I didn't want to forget to share about that. Healing me during my sleep. And then one way, this is kind of an interesting, just like a meditation that I do. So because I'm traveling with my son, some of you on YouTube probably don't know that. Anyone who's watching me from Facebook knows that about me already. I'm traveling with my son. We're going around the United States right now to different places, and we're camping. We have a really cool tent that pops up in the back of our big old truck, and it's kind of like a modern day covered wagon sort of feel sometimes. But because I'm traveling, and even before we were on this trip, I drove a lot, commuting to and from different sides of the island and such. I'm from Hawaii. For some more context for you, so I learned to really enjoy um, how it feels to go into my third eye and crown chakra spaces while driving. Of course, make sure that when you're driving and operating heavy machinery, you don't want to go too deep into a trance or anything like that. I don't do that. But, while being present with what is happening around me, I also just choose to move into this space, and it feels like I just kind of open and I look around with my third eye, and I just decide that I'm open to receiving information regarding yada, yada, yada. You can do it in a lot of different ways, but that's what I do. And I'll get a lot of really, really beautiful dialogue going on with my guides. I've also kind of, if this is a cool tool for you guys, um, with my guides, I've actually, you can kind of tell them, some people don't realize you can kind of tell them how you want to be communicated with. And that's another really fun way to set boundaries. Boundaries are a really important part of translating and interacting with the other, with whatever that other is, whatever sort of extra dimensional being that is, even with angels and other high vibrational things, entities, beings, consciousness, frequencies, whatever you want to call it. Boundaries are really important because we have to remember that they operate and exist in different levels of consciousness, different dimensions, different densities, and things happen very differently there. And it doesn't occur to them sometimes. Sometimes it's very innocent, it's like it just doesn't occur to them, or they forget. It's like, oh yes, you have to sleep right now. I shouldn't give you all these downloads while you're sleeping unless you request them. So, please leave me alone while I'm sleeping is a really good boundary to set. This is the time of day when I would really like to receive information from you. When I'm on my morning walk, when I'm driving to this place, when I'm taking a bath, whatever it is for you. So you can tell them that. You can also tell them, hey, I really like seeing images. So you can tell them to show you images in order to communicate, which, from what I've observed with other sensitive people and other people who are channeling, I also want to make a video about the word channeling because we need to talk about that, but it's a side thing. Um, it's an overused word right now, and I feel like we need to discern what that actually means for safety, even. Um, but you can tell them. what you like what makes sense to you. So um, it was actually by the suggestion from watching another teacher's videos here on YouTube um, that it's like I kind of let them know that I like short little video clips, like almost like a GIF image, GIF, whatever, however you want to pronounce that. Um, and that's really awesome for me. So that's something that you can request too. And that's what I see a lot of people doing, whether they intended that or not. So, you can get specific with your boundaries and with your requests because we're working together. This is the dialogue. We're all working together, right? It's a friendship. So, you let your friends how you like to be communicated with, what works and what doesn't work for you, right? With kindness and understanding, always, of course. And that can go both ways. Um, Other questions I get are like, about things that make it easier for me to reach them. And honestly, it's just about practice. And you're going to, when you decide that you're ready for certain experiences, the universe, your personal matrix, is going to supply you with experiences that support that. So, for instance, my experiences that were kind of scary that I went through, but that I needed to have in order to learn certain skills, learn certain things about myself and about interacting with the other. I got those experiences when I decided I was ready to take the next step and that I was ready for the up level, that I wanted to become the master of these skills, that I was ready to rise up and meet my destiny. That's when I got those experiences, not a moment sooner. Okay. So you get what you decide you are available for. So you have that control, right? And you also get what you're ready for, And so it might not always be comfortable because growth is about stretching a little bit, right? And yeah, and it's not always comfortable. It's stretching, but you're not going to be thrown into something that you can't handle. So all those experiences kind of definitely brought me to where I am now. But there are also some little tools, like a couple of like little tools that I use. Um, I definitely love using stones and crystals and herbs. I make my own flower essences because I find that flower frequencies are just really healing for me and learning different things. And having a dance with my consciousness, different codes that I want to activate in my DNA as I move forward in my evolution, in my ascension. So I use flower essences a lot. Just off the top of my head, interacting with these beings, wild carrot flower, also known as Queen Anne's lace, is a really good essence for people who it's good for seeing into the truth of things. And that can be really good in a practical sense, but it is also really good for when you have when you're developing your psychic abilities. So that's one, for instance. Another really good one is yarrow. Um, that flower essence is really good for protecting yourself as you go. So it's really good if you do astral traveling, if you're interacting with other entities, or even like there's a lot of situations in the 3D realm that it's really good for as well. Like if you work in a highly stimulating or hostile environment and you're a sensitive person, your art can be really helpful. But it's good for when you're doing these things because it helps you. It's very protective. It'll kind of let all the good stuff in. Like it makes your membrane semi permeable, right? So, like, think of a cell and you're only letting in the nutrients that you want and you're keeping out the nutrients and the viruses and bad things that you don't want. So, Yarrow will do that for your energy fields. Um, so, that can be really helpful. Um, and what else do I use? Oh, a really good one that I love, um, not just for going into receptive mode and creative mode in general, is a sacred datura flower essence. Now, this plant, just so you know, since we're talking about it, is highly toxic. I'm not going to recommend that anyone work with this plant who is not educated about it, who is not ready and willing to take responsibility for what happens to their body and their consciousness while they're interacting with it. I do not recommend taking a tea or even touching it can be kind of toxic. So something to use with discretion. But in the flower essences that I make, for instance, they are so diluted there really aren't any of the chemical components of the plant. We are dealing with the flower's message and frequency. So, as a sensitive person, I feel safe using it in a flower essence, whereas I would not ever use it in a tea or an ointment or anything like that. Though some people do, that's their choice. It works for some people, it would not work for me. And I'm not recommending that. But when I use the essence, I really appreciate how it throws me into a really feminine receptive mode, and usually it kind of puts me in alignment with nature, and I feel like nature is expressing itself through me. So when I want to connect with nature spirits, elementals, and like fairy consciousness and things like that, um, or tuning into a person's frequency to get messages for them specifically, um, I feel like the sacred datura was really helpful for me personally. Um, Another tool that I use is a supplement called Ormus. It's also called monoatomic gold, and it that is a ORME. ORME is an acronym that stands for orbitally rearranged monoatomic elements. So it's a supplement that was has been used for a very very long time. I think it was first used in Egypt, and it's really magical. It does a lot of really great things for your physical body, including helping your memory and cognition, uniting the right and left hemispheres of your brain, and increasing your um, immunity. It also detoxifies your body on a cellular level, which not many things do. I might make a whole video on Ormus because there's a lot of information about it. Um, it's not for everyone, but it has changed my life. So on an energetic level, Ormus is like pure prana, and it actually heals your light body. So, as you can imagine, when you first begin taking Ormus, you can feel a lot of strange and sometimes uncomfortable sensations as you shift to a different density, a different frequency. But it's really nice for taking before meditating, or gaining clarity, or just before you want to focus your mind in a certain direction. Um, yeah, including talking to other energies and entities. Um, So I have a lot. There's a lot of questions, you guys. So I'm just gonna skip um, to a short one for now, just to wrap this up, and I will definitely make another video to include some of the other questions and share this information and get it out there. Um, People want to know what the positive effects are and the negative effects of these experiences and talking with other entities. Briefly, the negative effects, um, just kind of like what I was talking about before, like when I was younger, I had some traumatic experiences. So that is a possibility when you're opening yourself up. It can be very vulnerable, but that's why we go into it with our discernment, our third eye turned on so that we can tell what we want to link up with, what we don't. And we arm ourselves with tools like yarrow flower essences and our awareness. So I do want to let you know that that stuff is real and it is a possibility. But for me, after going through all those experiences, what I've mostly experienced are really positive things. And I do feel like it's impacted my life in a really amazing way. Um, so, like a lot of these beings are my guides.
Mom,
Yes, honey.
I would like some good dessert.
Dessert. Well, we're not going to have dessert because it's morning time and we're still working on breakfast. Did you eat your breakfast? Was it good?
I think it is already finished.
It's finished. Okay. Well, how about in about 5 minutes I come out and I make you some more food?
No.
Do you want to eat pancakes this morning?
Nah.
You don't want pancakes with honey on them? Oh, wow. Okay.
I would like some dessert.
Okay. Well, in about 5 minutes, I can talk to you about that and we'll get some food. Okay. 4-year-old boys, man. Ugh. Okay, Atlas, I'm done. Thank you.
No.
You can sit on my lap nicely if you want.
Give me no.
Okay, so this clearly has an expiration date. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Anyway, but yeah, so many of these entities that I talk to regularly are my guides, and I talk to them all the time. It's also encouraged me to eat better. They guide me to eat better. for a lot of different reasons. I also noticed that what I eat affects what I'm a vibrational match to, so that's something to take into consideration. Not saying you have to be like all raw vegan, well, or something like that, but it does affect it, so it's good to be aware of. Um, and yeah, mostly what I learned is about having better boundaries, and I just have insight into so many different things now as a result of having contact with these beautiful resources and the friendship of these different uh, beings. So I'm going to cut it off now because this is not happening. um, but yeah, I think the main thing I want to leave you with is that it's just given me so much insight and so much. It's a tool that I use to help others, and that's what I appreciate about it the most. I really love the way it allows me to help others and share. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to make more videos. I'm going to link my website, my email, my contact info below. If you're interested in readings, feel free to reach out to me. I do some really amazing readings that incorporate human design, astrology, as well as channeled messages, intuitive guidance, and remote energy healing. Um, but yeah, it's all tailored to the individual. So I would love to help you, or just reach out if you have more questions for anything that I want me to make videos about. So thank you. Have a great day. You want to say bye, Atlas?
Bye.
Bye. Ooh.